Hello, everyone. Welcome to another great session at the 8th Annual UAGC Conference. We are super excited that you have decided to spend some time with us today and join us as our colleagues are sharing their information with us. We kindly request your attention for a brief moment in the spirit of transparency and utmost respect for our community. We have some information we'd like you to read on this disclaimer screen. By taking a few moments, you are going to empower yourself with important information for this community. Please also take a moment to read through this slide. Then together we will embark upon some exciting topics in early childhood education. I am super excited to introduce our next speaker. Lisa has been in the education field for over 30 years, teaching all classrooms K through 6. That's a lot of grades. Good for you. She has a degree in human development and a master's in education, both from the University of Wisconsin. She currently teaches second grade in Wisconsin and is an adjunct instructor for the University of Arizona Global Campus. And we love her and we know her students love her. So thank you so much for being here today. And the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Tisha. As she mentioned, I've been in education for 30 years. I have a human development degree from the University of Wisconsin-Green Bay, Wisconsin teaching license, and a master's degree from the University of Wisconsin in professional development. I also have 4 years of teaching at the college level. On screen here, and I am trying to add a little bit of humor throughout the show or the presentation. There's a picture of Jack Nicholson with his hair kind of swept to the side, and it says how preschool teachers feel at the end of every Friday. I kind of giggle to myself because I bet it's at the end of quite a few days with teachers. But we will move on from here, and I want to talk a little bit about trauma. We all know that unfortunately we will work with or already do work with some students who have experienced some pretty significant trauma in their young lives already. And this presentation isn't really necessarily for students like that. It's not to say that those students won't benefit from some of this stuff, but oftentimes those types of things would require attention and services that I simply as a teacher cannot provide. I'm talking about other health professionals. In cases where children have experienced some real trauma and have some deep-seated issues, obviously counselors and school psychologists and things like that would create plans for those students. This presentation is really more for issues that may not be as serious, but can still cause big stressors for kids. This is not to say, again, that the children who experienced major trauma won't benefit from some of these activities and exercises. So every act of misbehavior is a form of communication, and our real goal is to get students to respond and use the tools that we teach them instead of react. That is kind of the key and the goal, I think, for most educational professionals. I've got a meme here of Bob Ross, the painter, and it says teacher, no drawing in class, and kids in the back of class, and it's Bob Ross doing his thing, kind of just, again, adding some humor in. I have a little meme here on the next slide when my impulsive self is about to make a decision and a little kid with his face kind of scrunched up. I know what you're thinking is, how do we do this? How do we get kids to respond instead of react in a way that we really don't want them to? This is not an easy feat, and it's not something that happens overnight. That is for sure. But before we get into all of that, I would like to talk a little bit about the why we want to do this, a little bit about brain research and stress. And I was skeptical about some of these things, I know, as I heard of them, until I really tried implementing these things with my students over the years and have actually seen the difference it has made and seen the kids using some of these tools, which is a pretty good feeling. We always want to think of these things as kind of a marathon and not a sprint, right? None of this is an overnight type of fix. The next slide here. So chronic stress, if left untreated, this comes from some brain research that we know can cause brain shrinkage. It can lessen a person's ability to handle stress in the future. It can lead to increased chances of mental health issues. It can affect a child's ability to learn, which of course is a big concern of ours as educators. It can cause a whole host of other physical type conditions, such as high blood pressure, heart disease, strokes, obesity, and more. I have a little meme up here with a little girl that looks pretty distressed, and she looks like she's coloring. And it says, some days I just want to reply my emails with okay, and then this picture, just to kind of let people know that we all have some stressors in our lives, right? Okay, the next slide here. So some of these things can then in turn lead to some depression, anxiety, which we see pretty often in children, self-esteem issues, etc. And we know that some of this can then in turn lead to some ways that people try to alleviate some of these symptoms, and maybe not in the early childhood education setting, but in the future as they get older. We know sometimes kids turn to drugs and alcohol and things like that. This meme on this page says lavender reduces stress, and then it says me, and it's a woman laying and she's got lavender covering her whole body. So hopefully that would help out. I just want to assure you that the things that we do here are very purposeful. I know that, some of my coworkers have already alluded to the fact and joked with me that some of this stuff is kind of fluff. And I assure you that it is not. I'm very purposeful in how I implement these things. And it can all get a little bit dicey with minutes, educational minutes, but I've had a lot of support, luckily in the district I'm in, because I feel like they really recognize the importance of some of these things. But some of the long-term issues that can arise if children continue to not be able to manage their stress can be sleep issues over time, again, overeating, alcohol and other substance abuse, or other types of addictions. But we're pretty interested in the short-term issues as well that stress can cause in a classroom setting. And I think especially because we can have disruptions to our classrooms. So in the classroom, if we see some misbehavior, it kind of puts kids in a fight or flight. If they're, feel like they're in a situation where stress is taking over, if they need to flee or fight, they are going to come up with a mechanism to try to do that, but they aren't always able, or they can't always recognize what the correct choice should be. So we are really teaching them tools to learn for the long run that they'll be able to have for the rest of their lives. This can also cause an inability to complete work, which of course is also an issue in the classroom, and to learn new things. And we also see some pretty significant mood swings in some children. This meme says mood swing, and it's a little one in a baby swing with her arms crossed and kind of a stressed out or sad look on her face. We definitely don't want that. Okay. So what can we do? This is the good stuff now. These are all things that we can do, either some of them try one thing at a time, or with time incorporating all of these things. It's taken me probably close to 15 years to incorporate all of these things. So I don't ever want anybody to think that it's too overwhelming, because there's so much here, because you can always start small. All of these things, or a combination of them, can be very impactful. I've got a kind of a meme on here. On this one, it says, tell me and I forget, teach me and I'll remember, involve me, and I'll learn. And the reason I put this one on is I really am a proponent of getting the kids to do these exercises and not just tell them you can breathe deeply or breathe deep. Okay, we have to really practice these things, and we practice them. If we practice them from a young age on, they are so much more, children are more equipped to deal with and handle and choose the best tools for when they need it. Here's Jim Carrey, and he says, somebody is saying to him, "You look stressed." And he's saying, "Thanks, it's the stress." And I just always kind of a bang out of him, and I can almost just kind of hear him saying that. Studies on the impact of mindfulness in the classroom have shown that the practice of these, incorporating these things, boosts academic performance. And that's so huge for us, right? Increases optimism and calms anxiety. Learning mindfulness early in life will help kids grow up to be healthy adults with a strong grasp on stress management. This came from a website called Declutter the Mind. I just am so interested in the impact that this has on children, because I think a lot of some of the major instances or incidences that have happened over the years in classrooms or in schools, that I wonder if some of those couldn't have been averted a little bit if some of these children didn't have some of their needs met earlier or had some coping mechanisms for them to use throughout time. The first one here that I just mentioned is the mindfulness. Now, many mindfulness exercises begin to help children become more aware of their surroundings. It helps them to tune in to how they're feeling and become more aware of their breath and how they can use it to help calm them. More than ever, I'm seeing students, I think we are, because I think it's kind of universal, that are struggling to kind of attend and focus on what we're doing. And in order to really be mindful of how they're thinking and feeling, these exercises for many children need to take place. And in a very early childhood setting, there are many exercises, and the kids don't always know, what they're learning, right? They don't know that this might be a beneficial tool for them. It's because a lot of the activities are fun. There's different mindfulness things you can do with food where they can taste things and smell things. And of course, kids love things like that. On the screen, I have a rainbow bubble breathing exercise. And this one comes from Branch Habitat. It's a blog spot. And it's a very simple exercise where you can go through the rainbow of colors, and there's a big bubble or dot and then two small ones. And so the big bubble would signal them to take a big deep breath in and out, and the smaller ones to take smaller breaths. And it just kind of gets them ready to do those deeper breathing type exercise. As I was researching for this and for the things that I do in my own classroom, I did realize, and I've known for a while, that this can kind of become a rabbit hole because there's so much out there in today's world for these things, which is so great. I think it's becoming kind of in vogue to be doing all these types of things to help students with their managing their stress. So in some of the resources I'm going to show you, sometimes you do have to dig around a little bit on the sites. And sometimes when I'm Googling things, I will, say mindfulness and then for children and that kind of thing, because it kind of helps narrow down some of the things I'm looking for, especially in very young children. Currently, I'm teaching at the second grade level, and they are, I believe, able to handle a little bit more, and in my fifth and sixth grade classrooms, even a little bit more complex things. But for the very young ones, there's still a lot out there that can be helpful. Some of the favorite places that I go to for some of these activities are, there's one called Declutter the Mind, and there are bunch of videos on that site. These are some of my favorites. Positive Psychology has some great ones as well. You do have to dig around a little bit, as I mentioned before. Things don't just pop up automatically. There is a site called mindful.org that has a whole children's section on it that are and some great videos. And I believe the one that's up is from their videos, Where I Feel, Toad Learns Belly Breathing. So some of these are really geared for the very young children. Waterford.org has a section on mindfulness. We Are Teachers / Social Emotional Learning has some great resources. I'm going to be talking about imagery scripts in a little bit here. Bitsofpositivity.com has a lot of imagery scripts that I use a lot and I really love, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But there's another one here that it's called freemindfulness.org. Again, there's a lot of blogs out there, and more we're seeing podcasts and things that are popping up for these types of uses. All right, to the visual imagery again. Now, this is one of my favorites, and I would probably say is one of the easiest to incorporate if you're going to start small. Visual imagery is great for so many things, right? Oftentimes, I will have my students lie on the carpet, and I will play something. I'll look up something. There's lot on YouTube if you just search visual imagery. Again, and I'll say for children, there are apps that you can use for this. New Horizon Meditation and Sleep Stories has some really great things. I'm starting to do some of these with my grandson at night before bedtime when he's here, and we find that it really calms him. Inner Health Studio and Positive Psychology are also places. The one thing, going back a little bit to visual imagery for a minute, I really believe a lot in this because I feel like it is kind of had dual purpose. I feel like it's really good to get children to calm down and try to be able to imagine things and kind of get themselves out of the moment. But it's also really good for young readers because in my second grade classroom, as they're transitioning from a lot of picture books to more chapter books, which second graders love to do, as they get older, there are fewer and fewer pictures, right, that they see in their books. And so practicing this imagery, and I tell them, make a mind movie, really helps them, I believe, to understand their reading better. So it's a great comprehension strategy. So I always look at this one as kind of dual purpose and just a very easy one to incorporate. The next activity that I like to incorporate is meditation. Now, when we think of meditation, I do think that we sometimes think of somebody sitting and eyes closed and that kind of thing, and that can certainly be the case. But there's so many cool ways you can use meditation with children. YouTube, again, has some good meditation videos. Happy Minds is a channel on YouTube that has a lot of cool things. Again, there's podcasts, and some of my favorite podcasts are Peace Out, Rise Little Earthling, and Best Day Yet. This is actually a picture on screen of my own students meditating. They usually will lie on the carpet. And as time has gone on, I've had students fall asleep, and then we gently have to kind of wake them at the end, but then they're a little bit worried that I was maybe upset, and I tell them, no, I was happy because I felt like it was really, they were really using that time to deeply do what I was asking them to do and not just be lying there. So that I'm always actually flattered, not flattered, but happy when they actually fall asleep. The next one is where it all began kind of for me, and that is with yoga. Of course, there's always here's some pictures of my students actually this past school year during some of the yoga classes. I always have to have kind of a disclaimer that I am not a yoga instructor. I'm not a licensed yoga instructor. So I always send a note home with parents, excuse me, explaining that and having the parents sign, kind of a little waiver in case something would happen, that they're aware their child is doing this. In a few minutes, I'll show you some of the sites I use, and it's pretty gentle stuff. I think the risk of getting hurt is pretty low. I've been doing this for probably about 15 years, and I've never had a student get hurt. I always also tell them, if something hurts, back off, or, if you feel like your body just isn't able to do this, then don't. The things we do are really pretty basic, and it's for that reason, because I don't want to be, liable if somebody gets hurt. I never force the kids to do this. I always give kind of an out if they would rather just sit and quietly work in an activity packet or color or something like that. Some days kids are feeling it and some days they aren't. But what I have discovered is over time, most of the kids do take part, and they will actually miss it if we miss a week. The one thing is I don't really allow a real fun activity as an alternative, like computers and things like that, because then I've noticed that more kids who I feel like really do still enjoy yoga would rather go on the computer. So that's just something I've learned over time. It's two great places. The one I have had trouble, I'm not going to lie, finding great yoga videos for kids. There's a YouTube channel that has so many different episodes. It's called Cosmic Kids Yoga, and you'll see that one here in the corner with the woman in the blue outfit with the rainbow. They have a lot of themed videos that the kids absolutely love, like Frozen and Mario and all sorts of different things that the kids really get excited about. This one, excuse me, is great for very young students because it is very colorful, that she changes positions a lot so the kids don't get bored. It's good to teach some really basic yoga moves. But my students, as they're getting a little bit older, are able to kind of focus a little more on what we're doing and holding some of those positions. There is a woman called Sarah Beth, and she has a yoga channel on YouTube, and I go to her a lot, both in my own personal life, and I use her for my little bit older students as well, because she offers a lot of shorter videos, and the moves are pretty basic and gentle and nothing too crazy. And I feel like she's just really even keel on a lot of things. So she's somebody that I really enjoy. I do keep a lot of yoga mats right at school, and I've kind of collected them over the years and bought a few. Some kids have yoga mats on their own, so they bring those to school and either keep them at school or bring them back and forth because they know the days we're doing them. But I know some preschools have mats for different activities as well. Moving on, education, of course, is another big key to all of this. And not every classroom or center or school buys curriculum in this area. Our school happens to be in the first year, finishing up the first year of a whole school reform. And as part of our literacy reform, there is a program that was purchased along with it, and it's called Getting Along Together. And it's a very scripted program that we use throughout the whole school year. And we teach lessons such as identifying feelings, of course, which is huge, conflict resolution, and then strategies and tools to use when they realize they are, starting to get frustrated or sad or those kinds of things. Again, not everybody has, the advantage of having a curriculum like that. But the good thing is, if you don't, there's still a lot. There are a lot of books that are coming out about mindfulness and conflict resolution. I have a book on the screen here called Breathe Like a Bear. And this is just a great one too that can help teach young ones about deep breathing. Teachers Pay Teachers has a lot of resources, and some free, you know, if you don't want to have to spend any money, if you search for the free stuff, you will find things on there. And then there's also other free online resources if you search for education on this topic. There is a site called castle.org, and that site has all different types of curriculum, such as the one we are using. Over the years, we have had different curriculums. But this is the current one, the Getting Along Together, that we're using. But there is a lot available out there if your district or center is willing to purchase some of those things. Our school has been very supportive of this because they have seen the huge need we have had for this in the past, and what we continue to have with students having some issues and just wanting to bring more tools to the table for them. Okay. Okay. But where do I start? I mentioned a little bit earlier how it's probably a good idea to start kind of small, and with things that you feel will be a good fit for you. Every classroom is different. Every group of students is different. And what's good for one might not be great for the other one for another class. But the biggest tips I can give you here on the screen I have is to start small, maybe incorporating one of these pieces at a time. I have on here Trick the Kids, and I always kind of giggle with this one, but I am a huge proponent. It's kind of my mantra, not only in the mindfulness and these types of activities, but just education in general, right? I want the kids to be tricked in the sense that they're having so much fun and they're involved that they don't even realize they're learning. And to me, when you can kind of reach those levels, you are truly making education meaningful for children when they don't even realize they're learning. The other part, that's another one that's really big, is to be a part of it. The kids just love to see me doing yoga with them. They love to see me taking part in the mindfulness. Instead of just hitting play and turning and working on some things at my desk. Okay, in the past I've had to do that a few times for different reasons. And the kids just, they're not doing it as well, right? You being part of it is really a big thing for them. I always think of that poem that said "Little Eyes Upon You," and how truly the kids are watching everything that you do. So being a part of it yourself is huge. But I also, and the fourth one on here for tips and tricks, is to use the lingo not only during these activities, but throughout the day, because it really helps, again, for that modeling. I will often say things like, "I see you're feeling a little bit silly," or "I think I'm feeling like you might feel sad," or "I'm feeling frustrated because I'm trying to talk and other people are talking." So using those "I feel" statements and some of those things that we use during the educational pieces, I believe are very important for us to be using as modeling for some of these activities. Okay, so if there's any tips and tricks, I think these four are probably the biggest ones that will help you in your quest to get started with some of these things. The more I have done it in the past, the more I believe in it and am seeing the benefits. And again, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You're not going to see things overnight, but over time, I hope that you experience what I have and notice the kids actually using some of these tools and tricks. So certainly best of luck to you in this area. And I'd like to certainly thank you for attending today. I appreciate you being here. Our children need you, that is for sure, to help navigate this crazy thing called life and school. And I look forward to hearing from some of you on how things are going for you, or welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you so much for joining us in this awesome session, and we hope that you will find another that you want to watch right now.